Lucero stepped up to the podium and cleared his throat, sorting through his notes for a moment. Okay, you all know the basics, what's been reported in the news. The victims are all Hispanic males between the ages of 8 and 11 years old. They aren't local. Our best guess at this time is that they're being smuggled into the States by a South American human trafficking ring. Their runners are called coyotes. They pick up kids from villages that have been attacked by local drug cartels. A lot of times these kids are living on the streets. It's the typical scenario. If the parents or family members are still living, they're lied to and told their kids are going to the States on sports scholarships, that they'll be living in luxury and safety and all that. Complete bullshit. The kids are thrown into panel vans and transported in stages, being picked up and dropped off. These coyotes are trading drugs and weapons as well. Sometimes the kids are going to real homes with families who can't adopt any other way. Sometimes they're going to stay with other family members who are already living in the States, either legally or illegally. But not all of the children. Not all of the time. That's all the information that's been released to the media. The following information has not been. Lucero paused for a moment, looking at the faces of his fellow officers before him. Men and women, big and small, mostly men, but there was still a good percentage of women there. All highly trained individuals, all dedicated to serve. The medical examiner has confirmed that all of the victims were raped, repeatedly, often brutally sometimes. Well, let's just leave it at that. The ME has also confirmed that all of the victims died by strangulation. They were garroted with a rosary. A special kind of rosary. Again, Lucero looked at his fellow officers. Every eye was fixed on him. The room was completely still. Only the clock on the wall made any sound as it ticked the seconds away. These rosaries appeared to be handmade with silver fittings and carnelian beads. There do not appear to be any kind of fingerprints on them, and only the DNA of the victims has been found so far. In fact, we have no other evidence except the victims and the murder weapons. We're at a dead end here. I'm hoping my interview with Miss Campbell will provide some kind of help. He paused for a moment to let that sink in before he finished. These children are completely off everyone's radar. There is virtually no way to ID them or track down next of kin. If we were ever able to ID them, if the bodies hadn't been discovered, nobody would have even known these children were missing. Dead. There are no "Have you seen this child" posters for these children. We are, and this investigation is, the only hope they have of finding justice. I don't care if angels carried whatever this thing is descending from heaven to hand it to this gal. If it does what she says it does, well then, we'll have some kind of lead to follow at least. Several voices raised out as hands were raised. What kind of evidence is that going to be? Are we going to be able to use it in court? Is that even legal? Lucero waved them all down. I have no idea. That's not our priority right now. We've got children being smuggled into Houston and then murdered. The mayor is hot on this. She's making noises about bringing in the FBI. If we don't want to lose this case entirely, we're going to have to step up our game here. I'm willing to talk to anyone if it gets us an arrest. We'll worry about a conviction later. He glanced at McConnell and nodded as he stepped away from the podium, gathering his notes and shoving them in his notebook. Right then, Officers Fletcher and Moran. You're on patrol this morning, yes? All right. Get out there. Stay in the area of the quarry. I want that perimeter monitored 24/7 now. Everyone else, return to your assignments. Wilkins and Farley, you stay. Charlie looked at Farley, who looked back at Charlie, his expression unreadable. Well, at least we don't have to drive through mid-morning madness, he offered his partner. Farley rolled his eyes and sighed. Resignation. I am dreaming. Back in the sanctuary, I stood before the fireplace, feeling the heat from the flames warming my legs. I turned and saw her watching me from across the room. How long have you been there? I asked. How long have you been there? I sighed. It was going to be that kind of session. I have a meeting in the morning. I know. I don't want to go. I know. I looked up at the gold-tiled ceiling and took a deep breath. Do I have to do this? I mean, why me? I'm not any good at this. I don't know what I'm doing. My voice trailed off. She stepped forward and sat down on the floor and grabbed my cushion and took a seat facing her. I understand you're scared. That's ordinary, completely normal. Don't try to make yourself feel happy. You'll just make yourself feel more frustrated. I snorted. Frustrated is putting it mildly. I stated, I guess I just need a little better understanding of how the lens works. Maybe that will help. Her face brightened. Sure. What do you want to know? I don't know everything, understand, but I do know some things. And there are some things that I know, but I can't tell you. She glanced at me to see my reaction. I pursed my lips and shrugged. That's not surprising. It always seems to be like that, doesn't it? She smiled. Sometimes, yes. So, what do you want to know? Let me see if I can help you. So I started with my questions. What kind of material goes into the slide? Anything from a physical body that can be prepared in a very, very thin layer. Hair, skin, muscle, organs, that kind of thing. Does it matter which one is used? She paused for a moment, considering. Yes. I paused. Then, so which kind of sample is the best to use? Another longer pause. That I can't tell you. I scowled. Can't or won't, I muttered, then took a deep breath and held up my hand. Never mind. It's part of the process, I suppose. I looked at her as she smiled and dipped her head. I thought for a moment, reviewing my questions. I just felt like I'd come to a wall. I could not easily think of what would be the next question, although I knew I had many more questions to ask. I guess I'll just see how it goes, I said finally. I still don't want to do this, so if you can come up with someone else, that would be fine with me. I gave her my bravest, I don't care what you think face, and she laughed again. You are stronger than you know. Braver than you think, smarter than you believe. When you start feeling like you are too weak to go on, more afraid than you are brave, that you are silly or foolish or just plain dumb, I want you to hear my words, so I'm going to say them again. She looked at me directly and I felt a wave of heat running from the nape of my neck to the small of my back, then circle my torso. I inhaled, feeling like I was being levitated off the floor. You are stronger than you know. Pause. Braver than you think. Pause. Smarter than you believe. Pause. She reached forward and put her fingertips on my forehead. Remember. I woke with a start, her voice ringing in my head. Remember. I blinked for a second, finally aware of the alarm clock going off next to me. I shut it off without looking at it and slid out of bed. I did not believe her at all. I did not feel strong or brave or smart. I just felt resigned.